Welcome to Medical Confessions.
Your remedy for serious medicine. I'm Jen.
I'm April.
And I'm Scott. Today we're going to be talking about why coffee makes you poop, and we're going to be going over caffeine and can it stunt your growth.
All right, so we're all gathered here today. We've got our coffee mugs ready to go. Each one of us has a different kind of coffee. I'm the only one that has not taken coffee in yet this morning, correct?
That's right, I drank it.
Yeah,
You drank it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason we're here today is we're trying to figure out, does coffee actually make you poop? Now, I've heard that from several people, including my own husband, who swears by like the 4-minute rule, that it's instant. I haven't had that same experience. So I'm gonna ingest this large amount of coffee here. We're gonna see if anything happens. But why does coffee make you poop? That's the big question.
I'm going to start. It does make you poop. We'll start there. For me, it's pretty quick, actually. That number 2 train comes kind of early in the morning every time I
Like
sip
how
on
quick?
this
How
guy.
quick are we talking?
It actually comes on in about 4 minutes. So that's unfortunate for those
I don't
people.
know anything else that happens that fast.
Well,
Okay, but I mean, like,
holy
really,
cow, that's hot.
it's the hydroplasm.
I burned my
out
lip.
there.
I'm not going to be able to talk. I'm taking off the lid.
I already did that for you once. I warned you.
That's super hot. All right. So now that we've burned myself, it comes on about 2 minutes, or excuse me, 4 minutes.
Okay.
So how they figured that out was there was a study where they took a bunch of volunteers who voluntarily had anal probes shoved up themselves to
Volunteers, like they didn't even get paid for that business.
And I wonder if, like, beforehand they said, okay, this is what we're doing, and then they got to volunteer, or did they volunteer ahead of time and then they were told, sorry, we're going to have to stick an anal probe up you. But what they did was they stuck anal probes up people.
You would volunteer in a heartbeat, wouldn't you? That's
for
my
scientific
worst. That's
purposes.
my worst nightmare.
It's for science.
Yeah.
Yeah, shove it up there. It's a good idea.
See how my body works.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
So
I'm sure that's the only reason you'd volunteer. Anyway, sorry, Scott.
So what's making you poop, obviously, is your GI tract. Peristalsis is how it moves things through your GI tract, and that's just rhythmic contraction of your digestive system, kind of like how a snake moves, only it's moving the poop through on the inside. And that peristalsis can be stimulated by quite a few things. Coffee, one of them. What they found when they shoved anal probes up people was that after about 4 minutes after drinking coffee, their peristalsis in their large intestine increased and stayed that way for about 30 minutes. So as you can imagine, if there's food inside of your large intestine and you drink coffee, 4 minutes later, that food wants to come out. And so coffee does make you want to poop, but not for everybody.
So it's coffee, not caffeine, or it's the caffeine, not the coffee?
Well, so caffeine can affect peristalsis, but in coffee, that's not the thing that's making you poop. To start off, it doesn't happen to everybody. Only about, it actually occurs in women the most, which is odd that you don't.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me at all. And I am a heavy coffee drinker in the morning, like a pot by myself every morning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, and as we talked,
I've told you, this morning was a rough morning for me. That's all I could think about was, when are they going to get here? I've got to have my coffee.
Well, and for you guys, one of us chose not to drink coffee this morning to show you that once she drinks it, does she have to poo?
If I exit quickly.
Yeah, so if she leaves really quickly, we know what's happening. For me, it happens, so if I leave quickly, you know why. Don't tease me while I'm gone. But actually, only 53% of women does it happen in, and about 18.
That's over half of people, or half of women, so that's impressive.
One of you does, one of you doesn't.
Yeah.
I guess we're right on line.
Social norms.
And it happens faster. If I put cream or sugar, typically I just drink my coffee black. But if I put cream or sugar in it, I have to go before the cup of coffee's gone.
That's interesting.
Is there anything? So are you, this may be back to the seafood. Seafood salad. Is there a dairy component of it, maybe, that?
Possibly. I know that, if I eat ice cream, I fart a lot.
So I'm just wondering if it exacerbates if she eats.
Well, yeah, so if you've also got some bacteria that are going to give you more gas based on the, the lactose in there. add that to the coffee. Yeah, so men it doesn't happen very, as often. It's only about 18% of men, but it happens
See, and
to
that
men.
doesn't seem right to me. We work with a lot of men, and I feel like
Well, we just like to talk about our poop, I think.
maybe that's
any
it. But
opportunity
I feel
to
like,
talk about
especially
pooping.
in the morning, like it's eat or be eaten as far as getting to the bathroom in time. Like I feel like it's more than 18%. I would feel like it's more than women.
But the studies say only about 18%. So, and I guess that's just 18% of the men who had the anal probe shoved up them is,
And
had
maybe the men didn't
peristalsis.
appreciate that. Maybe they didn't like it, so it wasn't really a valid study.
Their body was rejecting the study.
They were too uncomfortable
Get
to
it out.
women are used to being well, like medically.
Medically speaking, we're used to that sort of thing. There are certain areas in the world where men are used to it too, but
apparently not American men.
Percentage-wise, maybe
was
not.
Was this done in America?
This study was done in America. So what is it? In your body, you have something called chemoreceptors. Normally, they stimulate you to breathe when your CO2 gets too high inside of your body, but they can be stimulated by your sympathetic nervous system. What happens is when you drink coffee, it stimulates your sympathetic nervous system. It'll cause a constriction of your blood vessels. Your chemoreceptors will react to that through a complex cascade of chemistry, and it'll stimulate your vagus nerve, and then your vagus nerve stimulates peristalsis. And will move the food on through your digestive tract. That only happens, that takes about 15 minutes to kick in, and that lasts for, 3 to 6 hours. So with coffee, what they found was, well, it starts within 4 minutes. So clearly the caffeine might be a contributing factor, but it is not the reason coffee is making you poop, especially so quickly. So what they found was, there's a couple of different molecules in your body that gets released when you put acid in your stomach. One of them is cholecystokinin, and one of them is called gastrin. Coffee has about 40 types of acids in them. Anytime you get an increase in acid in your stomach, it will release that gastrin and cholecystokinin. And then what that does is gastrin will stimulate your vagus nerve, which is also going to stimulate peristalsis. It'll also close your gastroesophageal sphincter. That won't allow food to come up. And it'll also relax your ileocecal valve, and that's the valve between your small intestine and your large intestine. And then overall, gastrin will just increase peristalsis. So the net effect being it starts those rhythmic contractions, close off the valve going in, opens the valve going out, and the net result is you want to poo. The other thing that gets released is that cholecystokinin, and then what that does is it stimulates your gallbladder to release bile, which will break down fats, and that'll help in digestion, which is also kind of one of the reasons people with gallstones don't like to drink coffee. That's kind of anecdotal, but a lot of people say that they don't like to drink coffee if they have gallstones, probably because it's stimulating your gallbladder, and if you got gallstones, that sucks. So don't drink coffee or eat fatty foods, really. Anyways, it also, cholecystokinin will stimulate your hypothalamus and to say that you're full, and so you won't be hungry anymore.
That's very true. That's like the only time of the day that I'm not super hungry is the morning. And it's
we know. We got to feed you.
Yeah.
But I'll skip breakfast and stuff. I'm fine, but as soon as the coffee's worn off,
I think in the Urban Dictionary under hangry, they do have a picture of you because every time you...
But I wonder, like perhaps if I did a better job in the morning of, eating some good proteins and complex carbohydrates and not so much coffee. But I think by the time noon hits, I'm a train wreck.
Well, yeah, because now you're really hungry because you didn't eat.
Yeah.
We know this. But yeah, so that would probably be the cholecystokinin that's telling your hypothalamus that you're full, and so you don't feel hungry. Either way, those two molecules start within about 4 minutes, and you start pooping. So don't eat a bran muffin and sit in traffic and drink coffee.
I wonder.
What I've learned.
I thought about that when we were talking about prepping for the show and stuff. So people, like I commute with coffee in over an hour every time I go to work. So I drink coffee throughout the time, never have a problem. But I thought about somebody perhaps that was affected, and is that a problem? Or do you just drink coffee before you leave?
Well, for me, I got to poo right away. So when I start drinking my coffee in the morning, a couple minutes later, it's straight to the bathroom. And
That's incredible.
make it happen.
To be able to
And then-
pre-plan.
Oh, yeah.
It's so foreign to me. Now, does a coffee change the consistency or anything? Like, so if you have a bowel movement later in the day on vacation, something that's out of your norm, is the consistency different than coffee? Does coffee change that? Is it more urgent? Is it more...
Sometimes it's urgent for me. I
just
have
with
never,
the coffee, or do you have other times when it's urgent?
No, I know when it's a coffee urgent. Like, I know the difference
Yeah.
between a regular and a coffee. It's because of my long drive to work. So I've never been able to wake up and be the kind of person that just takes care of business. My husband, different story.
But is that
So
because
it's
you're like
clockwork
not
for
good
him.
in the morning with anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just not a morning person.
No, I'm not. So I need to get my coffee in. I drink it on the way to work. And sometimes it hits me on the way to work, and I just...
Tough it out.
Just tough it out. Sometimes I get a hell of a butt sweat going on.
You're like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber,
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
fighting it off.
Just a disclaimer for our listeners. You probably are going to hear way too much personal stuff that you ever...
We've talked a lot about your bowel movements
I
recently.
know, I
I'm
know.
uncomfortable with knowing that.
These recent topics have been pretty
I'm an open book.
a shameful way to introduce our podcast to the world. Yeah, I just wonder because, like I said, I've just got my own litmus of, you know, my husband and his habits, and he drinks coffee and instantly like you, and then he hits the road. But I just wonder somebody maybe that takes maybe up to 30 minutes, if we said that it takes that 4 to 30 minute window, you know, what you do when you're on the road.
Yeah, you fight it back. I mean, all you almost want to stick a cork up there. And
Prairie dogging it. I forgot what movie that's from, but
that's, what is that?
I don't know. It was a car. It was a family in a car,
Yeah.
and the little girl yelled, "Dad, I'm prairie dogging it."
Little Miss Sunshine.
No.
That's the name of that movie.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, I don't think it changes the consistency, but I do realize what I ate last night for dinner every time. I'm definitely that 8 to 12 hour guy to get through all through the system, because if it's corn that I had for dinner,
Oh.
there's going to be some corn.
Great.
Don't.
Corn just makes Jen cringe.
We've seen April's corn poo.
Oh
That's a
gosh.
story we don't need to talk
It's
about.
because
That's right.
of Jen salsa.
Yeah, perhaps. Well, and I guess and the whole idea just intrigues me because I'm that irregular that coffee doesn't make a difference to me, and so you're saying 8 to 12 hours, and then you take coffee in, and coffee relieves you of your dinner
Pretty much, but I think I also poo a lot in general.
several
I'm
times a day.
I'm a couple times a day kind of
Oh,
guy.
really?
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm so skinny. I don't know. But I will definitely be able to tell what I had for dinner. I mean, if you have beets, well, there they are. You know, definitely.
I don't think I would pay attention. I don't think I analyze it.
Oh, I do.
You do?
I do.
Oh,
Have you ever had that psych test where they ask you if you look at your own poo before you flush it?
I don't know that I've ever been. I've had a couple psych tests, but I don't remember that question specifically.
I remember that question specifically because there was one that said, "Do you watch your own poo before you flush?" And I said no. And then later on, after thinking about it, I was like, "Well, yeah, I do. Everybody
Well,
looks
do they
down."
consider that healthy
you know?
normal, or do they consider that abnormal to
Well, I
watch?
don't know. It's a psych test. They don't tell you. I asked, and he's like, no, it's just a one factor. He didn't say I was crazy. But I do look at, I mean, I don't know who wouldn't, because when you, I mean, unless you're closing the toilet lid
Well,
before
yeah,
you turn
you want to
around
make
and-
sure that it's cleared, you know, but I don't know that I'm watching it for its characteristics and its personality. I'm more like, good, okay, we're good.
Well,
No
yeah,
clog,
it's just you
move
happen
on
to
with
notice,
life.
oh, look at that, I didn't chew my sunflower seeds. That's why it hurt, you know?
I have actually thought about making a poop journal, taking a picture of my poop every day and then making a book. Someone will buy it.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah,
bowel
because I'm
habits of
always
April.
very impressed with the size of my poops, as is my husband
You know what?
and my
There's-
parents.
That's
Do you
like a
guys all
whole
re-
thing, because I've even been a part of text strings of several guys from work where somebody's so impressed by their, and I hate it. I don't want to be part of it, but I think that's like, yeah, I think people are impressed by that.
Does anybody put googly eyes on them when they take the picture? Because
I'll start.
There's got to be an app for that.
Get ready. Your next text is going to be shocking.
Oh, and I don't want it. Don't send it to me. That would
It's going to
do
be
me no
weird if
good.
she fit a carrot on there, a couple of googly eyes.
I have clogged more toilets and broke one in my lifetime than I'd like to admit.
Do you plunge a lot?
All the time.
Oh my gosh.
All the time.
That's
In fact,
incredible. So why
from-
does that happen to a person then? Because I don't think April to be a overeater, so it's not like she's eating so much that she has giant amounts. And honestly, for as much food as I eat, I should be like you. I should be going several times a day because I eat massive quantities of food. And I will go 3 and 4 days sometimes without having a bowel movement, which my husband said is not normal.
Well,
But it's always been normal for me.
when it comes to digestion, anything, I mean, no one really knows for sure. The main component is going to be the bacteria in your gut, you know, in your small intestine, large intestine, and how it's breaking down the foods. You know, there are trillions of bacteria in there, and, you know, millions of different types of bacteria in there. So depending on the type and how it breaks down food, and then, you know, the peristalsis, as it's moving food through your system, there's so many factors. I mean, you know, just those two molecules are only a very small part of how peristalsis works. You know, you stimulate peristalsis by, you know, your your parasympathetic nervous system, which can be stimulated by countless things. Obviously, those two molecules in coffee do it. There are so many factors. It would be hard to do a study and weed out all the contributing factors. All you can really do, I think, is just say, that's normal for me. Which is kind of what doctors do. They say, well, is that normal for you? And if it's not, then they work at it. Or they look at it. If it's normal for you, they're like, oh, good job, you know?
Right.
So yeah, that's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, and I'm not bothered by it. I feel like I function completely normally. Every now and then there's been a bad week. But for the most part, it's normal. I just feel abnormal compared to other people. Maybe that's my
because you
aversion
don't poo and you don't, coffee doesn't make you poo.
Maybe that's why I'm not accepting of the whole farting and pooing thing. Maybe I feel inadequate. So that was a short little break.
Now that we've evacuated our bowels, everything feels a little better.
Minus me. I'm still here.
One of us didn't have to poo, but
I'm
two of us
just surviving.
did.
I didn't.
One of us.
You did before we started.
Oh, yeah. No, I did. Earlier today.
What are these stories you're talking about with your pooing?
Yeah.
Oh, well. I think
you're
my
no
favorite one.
stranger to-
I think one of my favorite ones is it was Jess and I were just starting to date, and well, I'd already farted in front of him because I broke that barrier really, really
On your
early.
first date, did you fart in front of him and say,
Pretty much, yeah. Just because I just wanted to get it out of the way.
If this is a deal breaker.
Some people are okay with that, so just let them know who I am instantly.
You walk out, give him a hug, just so you know.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Actually, I think our first, we weren't really officially a couple, but we were together enough to consider each other. We're going to hang out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get him a lovey-dovey card, so I made one. And it said something along the lines like, I bought these huge heart glasses, and I had a picture of me on the front, and it said something like, you move me, no, you know, and a couple other things is like, no. And then you
give me gas.
You opened it up, or it is, you move me.
Yeah.
And it was a picture of my poop in the toilet.
No way.
And I got his picture of him looking at the front of the card. And as soon as he opened it up, I got his face.
And now I don't know who I'm more intrigued by, the fact that this is all April, or that Jess was attracted to it.
And he was like,
he was not attracted.
He saw the picture of the poo. He was like, yes.
So what
this
qualities
is the one.
do you bring to the table that counteract all of this? Like, that's what I want to know.
Or maybe you don't want to know.
No, I don't want to know.
So we have a night of drinking. We're heading down to Portland the next day. I have my coffee. We're on the road for about an hour. I'm like, oh God, we got to pull over.
It's way past the 4-minute window.
Yeah, and I'm hungry, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna we stop at a McDonald's, and I go straight to the restroom. Well, I have always just been an in-and-out girl. They're quick and seamless. Well, this one, I started going, and it was loud. Like, I was farting and, like, pooping. And I've never had them like that before.
It was the Dumb and Dumber story.
Oh, it was. And I've never had them like that before. So I started laughing.
So you're in there.
in the stall. I'm pooping, I'm farting, and I'm laughing. I mean, it was a full bathroom. And and then I'm laughing harder because I'm imagining what they're thinking.
Who's the crazy lady next door? Who does number 2 work for? You know.
And much to my horror, I come out, and for some reason, there was a guy in there, but because he was changing his daughter on a changing table.
Oh,
like they
no.
did that one. And so I laughed harder because this poor guy looked at he
that poor
walked
guy
into-
is now like, he's like, I thought men were bad.
Yeah.
But you guys, he tells his story probably still.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
probably.
There was
chick
this
comes
one
out.
lady who thought her poo was so funny.
I laughed all the way out. I was laughing so hard. I was in tears. I came out of the bathroom. Jess looked at me. We were supposed to eat breakfast. And he looked. He saw me. And he's like, go out to the truck. Just go out to the truck. He didn't even want to tell. He didn't even want to hear it until we got out to the
He
truck.
knew something embarrassing happened. And that's
I don't
been
want to
his
be
life.
seen with you in public. Just get in the
That's
truck.
been your guys' story ever since. Like, he is always picking up the message,
Oh, yeah.
April.
He let my aunt know. She's a classy broad.
Jeez.
Have you ever not gotten there in time and then had to change your clothes?
No.
Because
Oh, wow.
Almost.
That sounds hardcore.
Close.
that happened to me once.
Oh.
Like as an adult?
No, I was 7.
Oh.
So that
Okay, we
counts.
can forgive that because my kids
Yeah.
do that.
But I did really make McDonald's employees very mad. So, you know, it didn't have anything to do with coffee. I wasn't drinking coffee at 7, but I was floating down a river, drank too much river water, you know. Things in the river water make you move. Anyway, so we're driving home. My dad's not wanting to pull over because you only stop for gas and food, you know. You don't stop for anything else. But I said, I gotta go, Dad. And finally he did. He found a McDonald's. So I rushed in there and doing the butt squeeze, but there was somebody in the bathroom. Like, well, crap. So, you know, at 7, you're just bouncing up and down, trying not to go, and then it
Happened.
let loose, and it was
Oh.
watery and green,
Oh.
and I was wearing cutoff shorts because, you know, and so then it's like running down the leg, and I remember going into my sock going, I hope I have clean socks. This is going to suck. And
That's traumatizing.
so the worst part was the guy came out and looked at me and goes, dude, I would have pinched it off sooner if you'd have said something. You have to poop on the floor. And I was like,
Aw.
sorry, you know. Either way, my dad comes in, cleans up. You know, I clean myself up. He brings me change of clothes. So go back out to the car. And then I was like, well, I should probably go one more time before we leave so this doesn't happen again. I walk in and, well, you know, some had gone down over the sock, over the shoe, onto the floor.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to clean it up, you know.
Yeah.
So I go back in, and there's a McDonald's employee, like,
Oh.
mopping it up.
Oh.
And he looks at me and goes, can you believe people are just pooping on the floor? And I look right at him, I go, I know, that sucks. And I didn't say anything. There's no way I was admitting to that one.
Oh, jeez. I don't think I have any stories like that.
Because you don't poop.
Well, yeah, but But
I
I
feel like
probably
you
would-
were almost going to say
I was gonna say I would like probably block it out if I did. I probably would just
like your
for-
fart in science.
yeah, like just forget it happened.
I didn't do it.
I don't even know. Oh, so caffeine and stunting your
Yeah,
growth,
so caffeine does not stunt your growth.
despite
Oh.
what my parents warned me of.
Despite what they say. But there is, I mean, it does make sense. I think it was in the 70s, maybe 80s. There was a study that said for if you drink caffeine, for every 8 ounces of caffeine you drink, you're going to pee off about 18 milligrams more of calcium than you would otherwise, which is very true.
Yeah.
You do increase calcium excretion in your urine if you drink some caffeine, but really it's only about 18 milligrams. And so that's about 1 tablespoon of milk will replace that. So add some creamer to your coffee and you're fine.
Oh, okay. Well,
Or
mine
just eat
Heavy on the half and half, so
half coffee, half and half.
well, not that bad, but I do like half and half in my coffee.
Well, so I mean, just think about any of the ways you take in calcium. I mean, just eat on a normal diet and you're going to be fine. So, but you can see how, you know, people don't generally tend to look beyond the study, but if it says, oh, you're going to increase your calcium excretion, parents are going to be, don't drink coffee because you're going to stunt your growth because then it's not there for bone growth. which kind of makes sense because my grandma told it to me all the time. I never had coffee till I was an adult, and then I was hooked.
Now you're on it.
Yeah.
So what about with coffee intake, and you're talking about excretion of the calcium? Does it matter when you take like your multivitamins, or if you take your calcium in the morning? So not just pill form, but let's just say you're mostly a milk drinker in the morning, but then you follow it up with coffee. Is that more detrimental to your overall, or is it just, does it really matter?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, once you put the calcium in your body, it's going to get absorbed through a lot of different pathways, and there's a few different molecules like fluorine or fluoride, you know, kind of helps, you know, bring calcium to where it needs to be. But the caffeine will cause you to excrete that 18 milligrams, but that's almost nothing, you know. So at the end of the day, it kind of makes sense because you do need calcium for bone growth. You know, in the beginning, when you're in the womb as a fetus, pretty much all your bones are cartilage. Cartilage cells then, over time, will start to die off, and while that's happening, you get calcium salts and phosphate salts that just start to accumulate on the cartilage cells. You know, so that creates a bone. They call that ossification. Once the cartilage then dies off, what's left is the calcium and the phosphate salts, and then some pockets where blood vessels start to form, and then they can give, you know, blood and nutrients to the bones. There's a group in the cells, they call them osteoclasts, that'll break down bone. Osteoblasts help build bone. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but you know, so as your bones are formed in the womb, once you're born, there's really not a lot of cartilage left except for on the ends of your bones that kind of give you some shock absorption. If you're 90, you know you don't have any. Your knees hurt when you walk. And then you also have cartilage and your epiphyseal plates inside your bones, and that's where your bones are at. The plates, your growth plates, and that's where the bone is actually growing. The cartilage on the outside is called articular cartilage. Anyways, and then as you grow, when you're younger, there's more osteoblasts building the bone than there is osteoclasts breaking it down. So then your bones will just start growing. Fluoride is actually a molecule that'll help with that. When you're younger, fluoride attracts calcium. When you're younger, your body actually absorbs a lot more fluoride than it does when you're older. So you get more calcium going to those epiphyseal plates. And at the end of the day, your bones grow. So if you don't have the calcium and you're peeing it off, so to speak, then it would make sense that you would stunt your growth. But the problem with that ideology would be that you're taking in enough calcium anyway. It's going to replace that. It's not going to cause a problem. And at the end of the day, no study has ever said caffeine, or shown that caffeine actually does stunt growth. So while the ideology kind of makes sense, at the end of the day, practical-wise, it doesn't work.
All right, so our experiment for the day, you both had coffee before you got here. April, you eliminated well before you got here. Everything was normal for you. Scott, we had to take a nice little commercial break so that you could do your business.
The prairie dog was coming out.
So apparently the 50-50 split with women is true, because I have now almost completely ingested this entire mug of hot, steaming, delicious coffee. My headache's gone. I'm feeling more in tune here, more comfortable, but nothing from the waist down. I'm feeling nothing. No urges.
Because you don't poop.
Girls don't poop. I will continue to say that. April, I don't know what your excuse is, but that's what we... That's a whole other topic. But that's where we're at as far as today. So, Scott?
Yeah, clearly coffee makes me poop. As
18%,
we know,
one of the 18%?
I'm one of the 18%,
yep.
Clearly. But we do know it's not the caffeine in the coffee, it's the two molecules, cholecystokinin and gastrin, that are causing the peristalsis reaction. We also know that caffeine will not stunt your growth. So that's exciting.
That's good news.
Yeah, so I can keep drinking and not have to worry about being short.
If you like what you heard today, please check out our podcast, check out our YouTube channel, or our website, medicalconfessions.com.